What's up, guys? Stas here. So in this video, you saw the title, we have to go over some stocks and ETFs that I'm buying and holding forever. So let's not waste any time. If you all find value, hit that like button, subscribe, get your 10 stocks from Moomoo with a $100 deposit and your 12 stocks from Webull with any amount deposited. Link down below, and let's dive into the video. Alrighty, guys, we're back in the office. So first and foremost, the first one that I'm holding forever is VOO, the S&P 500 ETF. And make sure you guys stick on throughout this video because we're going to go over one more ETF in this video, a REIT, and we're going to talk about a stock that I'm going to be holding forever. So first off, we got VOO, the S&P 500 ETF. And in a second here, we're going to talk about why I like this one a lot more than SPY. And that might ruffle some feathers, but it's all good. So let's talk about VOO. Again, this is the S&P 500 ETF, which gives you exposure to the 500 largest publicly traded U.S. companies. Think Apple, think Tesla, Google, Nvidia, JP Morgan, literally those companies and 400 plus other ones all combined in an ETF. And I just knocked the mic a little bit. Sorry about that, guys. All combined in one ETF. Boom. That's the S&P 500. And this is really U.S. U.S. based because it's the 500 largest U.S. traded companies. But you got to realize a lot of these companies do business abroad. So keep that in mind when you're looking at VOO and you're like, oh, it's only U.S. exposure. True, it's a lot. It's dominated by the U.S., of course, but there is a little bit of exposure because a lot of these companies, again, do business abroad. So let me switch over to Safari very quickly, guys, and show you a little bit more about VOO. So right now, I really want to focus on the expense ratio. The expense ratio is 0.03%. So I believe if my math is right, that means for every $10,000 invested, you're going to be paying $3, a whopping $3 for every $10,000 invested for this to be managed, right? And the funny thing is, people like Dave Ramsey, not the crap on Dave Ramsey, but I don't know why. This just popped in my head. We're going to talk about it. He's pushing people into mutual funds, right? And people always talk about mutual funds. Well, now I guess a lot of people like ETFs more, but people are still in mutual funds. And again, Dave Ramsey is pushing people into mutual funds, and these are charging expense ratios of 1%, 1.5%, 2%. Think about that, guys. And mind you, actively managed mutual funds, 85% of them underperform, which is the crazy part. Think about that, guys. We're talking VOO, which is 0.03%, which this S&P 500 ETF, S&P 500 has crushed it over time. We're talking that's 0.03%, and an actively traded mutual fund is 2%. So in my opinion, if you're looking at a long-term buy and hold, especially for retirement, which is what this is for me, guys, you got to look at something that is diversified, it's broad, it covers an index, which in this case is the S&P 500, and paying a very small expense ratio is ideal. So I love VOO, 0.03%. And let's quickly look at SPY here, which is another one you guys could look at and buy, which I'm not telling you what to do, obviously, but SPY is another one. And honestly, whether you go VOO or SPY, long-term, you're going to be fine. But if you look here at the expense ratio, what does that say, guys? 0.09%. So if my math is right, $9 for every $10,000 invested, that is 0.09%. So it's 3 times. We're being a little bit nitpicky here, I'll be honest, guys, but the expense ratio is 3 times that of VOO. So for that reason alone, and mind you, they're both tracking the S&P 500. It's the same crap, guys. So for that reason alone, I'm going VOO. The fact that this expense ratio is a lot higher. And the dividend yield on SPY is about 1.45%. And let me see what it is on VOO. Let me see here. Actually, I'm curious now. I think it might be a little bit more. Am I wrong? Yeah, a little bit more. 1.49%. So lower expense ratio, higher dividend yield for VOO. I'm picking that all day. So that's number one, ticker symbol VOO, Vanguard, the 500 index fund. You got to love it. The second one here is also by Vanguard. This is an ETF. It is called the Vanguard Total International Stock Market Fund, ticker symbol VXUS. Now, this has exposure strictly to the international market. So remember, like I said, VOO has a little bit of exposure because a lot of U.S. companies, they do business abroad. Yeah, there's a little bit of exposure there, but if you want full-on exposure, more diversification in your portfolio, you want a global, really a global broad-based, diversified portfolio, you got to look at Vxus as well, which for me personally, and mind you guys, I own all these right now. Full disclosure, I own all the stocks, ETFs, REITs we're going to talk about in this video. And this one, Vxus, is roughly 5 to 10% of my long-term portfolio. And by long-term, I'm not talking my 3-year portfolio, my 5-year portfolio. This is one that I'm looking 20 plus years out. And a lot of people have it twisted. They're like, oh, international stocks, they suck. They're garbage. They underperform, which that's true. They have underperformed. But if you look at the cycles of history here in the financial markets, when U.S. stocks underperform, well, international stocks, a lot of the time, they overperform, or outperform, rather. I mixed that up. They outperform, guys. And Vxus, that's why I have it. I'm not buying and loading the boat on this because I think the international markets are better than the U.S. markets. I just want global exposure. So for me, and mind you, I forgot to mention this, VOO is about 50% of my long term, maybe 45, 50 roughly. And again, Vxus is about 5-10%. So just based on that, you see where the majority of my money is. And of course, the rest of that is in stocks, REITs, things like that, right? So Vxus, you got to realize it's going to outperform when the U.S. market underperforms, and it pays a very big dividend. Let's pull that up and see. Look at that, guys. They pay a 3.3% dividend right now, which is over double what the S&P 500 pays. So if you're reinvesting that dividend, which I'm doing personally, you don't have to, of course. Do whatever the heck you want. But if you're reinvesting this over the course of 5, 10, 15, 20 years, the compounded returns, they're going to be disgusting, guys. I mean, you're going to make a lot of money. And along with VOO, combined, the diversification is going to be solid. And when it comes to the expense ratio for Vxus, it is 0.07%. So $7 for $10,000 invested. That is extremely low. And we're nitpicking here, guys. 0.09% is 3 times what VOO is, yes, but 0.09% is still a very low expense ratio. That is fine. If you're paying that, you're going to be fine. When you have to be worried is when you're looking at half a percentage point and up, in my opinion at least. Kathy Woods is like 0.75%. Others are 1%. Some are 2%. That is where long-term, this will cost you a lot of money. It's going to eat into your gains. Go look at a compound interest calculator. You guys know what I'm talking about. So the next one here is none other than Alphabet, Google. You guys thought I was going to not mention Google in this video. You're sadly mistaken. This is one that I'm going to be holding on for life. And mind you, let me say this. This is another thing that's very real, right? You have to realize, I may be saying I'm going to hold these for life now, but if things fundamentally change in 10 years, which could very well happen, plans can change. Things in the stock market, they're not a for sure thing forever. Things could change, especially with individual stocks, Now, when it comes to VOO, granted, if we have maybe an alien invasion, maybe the world, maybe we get nuked or something like that, fine. All right, at that point, VOO is screwed. But let's say life goes on, things happen, recessions, the normal crap, we go through that, and we recover, and we do this for the next 50 years. VOO is going to be fantastic in 50 years. Vxus is going to be great. I'm not selling those. Those are true long-term buy and hold forever. Google, I plan on it as well. But again, with individual stocks, anything could happen. But as of now, Google, I love it. No plans of ever selling it. I've been holding this stock for years, and I'm continuing to buy. I think it's still, at this point in time, a pretty cheap, I don't want to say pretty cheap stock, but it's near fair value. I actually agree here with Yahoo Finance's measure here, or whatever the heck this is called, whatever you want to call it, value. I actually agree with that. I think Google's near fair value. Is it undervalued? No. Is it overvalued like Apple? No. I don't think so, at least. And if it were to get under $100, let's say that P gets to a 15, 16, 17, at that point, it's going to start getting undervalued. So Google, Alphabet, you guys know the business. Search, we have YouTube, we have ads, we have this, that, the third. They're all over the place. They have their hands in everything, and of course, they're developing a lot for the future here. So this is one that's a no-brainer for me. I'm holding on to it, and now that they did that split, I could sell covered calls on it. I'm going to be careful because I don't want to get called away. I don't want to have to give up my shares on Google. But in the right scenarios, I'm going to be selling covered calls now after the split, which is great. And last but not least, we have Realty Income, which you guys might be like, ooh, this is an interesting one. This is one that I am now planning on holding for life. And I used to own this, a couple of years ago, sold out of it, made some money on it, put the money into a different stock. But now I'm back in it, and I've held this one, and I've owned it for all of 2022, pretty much since, I think, January, or was it early February I started buying. Either way, I've been long this entire year, and the more I think about it, the more it makes sense to me. There's a stat, go look at it. Since 1994, Realty Income has actually outperformed, I believe, the S&P 500. I forget their exact return. I think it's 15% annualized dividends invested. That's great. And that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to outperform forever, but at this point, this is one that pays monthly dividends. It's a 4% payer, great dividend, almost $3 a year. This is one that I'm going to be reinvesting the dividends, and at some point in the future, I'm going to be looking to live off of this. Maybe obviously not live just off Realty Income, but that's going to be a stream of income for me. And to be honest, I'm not a big dividend investor right now. So the fact that I'm putting this in this list is pretty interesting. But the more I think about it, the more it makes sense as a safer kind of long-term bet. Because if you look at it, think about it, look at this portfolio diversification that Realty Income has here. Let me see if you guys can see this. Do you think any of these businesses, well, sure, some of these businesses could go under, but these are who they're leasing to, their top 20 clients. We have Walgreens, Dollar General, 7-Eleven, Dollar Tree, FedEx. Out of those 5 companies, do you see them stopping, going out of business or stopping the lease here, the triple net lease? Absolutely not. I mean, these are businesses that have been around for decades. They're going to last for decades more. We have LA Fitness, which I go to LA Fitness. It's not the best gym in the world, depending on the location. But you think that's going to go out of business? It might, but I think it's got some life left in it. Sainsbury's, BJ's is another big one. CVS is a big one. Walmart, Sam's Club. I mean, come on, guys. Red Lobster, AMC, YOLO Baby, Apes to the Moon, Regal Cinemas, Tesco, Lifetime Fitness, Kroger, Fastmart, Home Depot. I mean, guys, look at these clients. So I'm holding on for a very long time. Realty Income, going to be reinvesting it. And if you look at this in a tax-sheltered account, think of a Roth IRA, for example, you're not paying any taxes on anything. All the dividends are tax-free, gains are tax-free. You can reinvest everything. It's tax-free. So that's what I would look at when it comes, for dividends. I like them mostly in tax-advantaged accounts. Roth IRA, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? So, yeah, with that being said, those are 4 that I'm buying and holding forever, and I'm actively buying. And let me say that very clearly. I'm actively buying these, guys. I'm dollar cost averaging into VOO, Vxus. Google is one that I've been buying now that I think it's near fair value, and I was buying in the low hundreds when it was undervalued or, a lower price than where it is today. And Realty Income, I've been buying all year, reinvesting. So what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you found value, hit that like button and make sure to subscribe. Check out my Patreon, link down below. If you guys want all my buy, sells, call outs, all that good stuff in real time is linked down below on Patreon. And don't forget to get your 10 stocks from Moomoo with a $100 deposit and your 12 stocks from Webull with any amount deposited. All those are linked down below. And with that being said, cheers, guys. I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching as always. Peace out.